Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Art 101. And today we're going to talk about inhibition. Okay? And I have this one up here for a very specific reason, because we always have a tendency when we're doing things that when we're nervous about, we're not aggressive enough. When we haven't done something in a while, it's like we want to touch it with just kid gloves. We want to be careful because we're trying to work out the bugs again. We're just simply not aggressive. Now, when I was working these two paintings out in a class, and I'm going to show you the other one, but I actually took it further because after studying, I started realizing that my aggressiveness as toward holding the brush, paint, and stuff like that, I was very careful on this because I was trying to show my student, how to kind of underlay things in a very subtle basis. So when you do overlay color over top of it, you can actually leave these colors as subtle as they are show through. Then you go darker, lighter, warmer, cooler type thing all over. But I want you to notice something. Have you ever seen, and if anybody's seen my work on here, you know that I'm not subtle. I'm pretty aggressive with the whole thing. So by doing it this way, I wind up, it's taking me longer to get that point that I really enjoy, that color. But what it does do is it gives that little bit of softness to the harshness. It kind of adds to. So there's a benefit and there's a takeaway on this as toward good and bad. The good means if I be subtle, I can add a little bit more, I hate to use feminine, I hate to use that word, but it's more of a feminine touch to it where it becomes subtle. If I add paint to it really aggressive, that's the masculine and the very male part. This coyote was hunting. That's very masculine. That's very, even if it's a female, when they hunt, female creatures when they hunt are usually the most brutal out of all the wild kingdom. Look at lions, look at wolves. It's usually an alpha female that runs the crew. The alpha male, still there, but it's always an alpha female. Those two rule the roost, and she's more brutal than he is 90% of the time. So when you think about in nature how things are handled, we have the subtlety, and then we have the aggressive. Okay? Now what do you see? What did you just see happen? I went from this real nice into taking my purple in there, but look what it did. Okay, now I'll take some greens in areas and drop these things back to really add some depth. Now there's a reason why I've got this tape over here, but I won't tell you because it's kind of like this wow reveal at the end of it. Okay, so yeah. I've got tape here, I've got a tape moving different directions, and I'm going to use that as toward attention across the entire painting. And I do this all the time. I like things interesting. Now, I could have left, what's fun is I could have left that like this and just went real subtle. It took me forever to finish the painting. I want to get the painting done. Okay? So I'm not going to sit there and futz around and work these subtle colors. Now, when you're in a teaching aspect, I don't want people to work subtle. I want them aggressive. I want them really to apply the paint and then learn to back away from that, because if they take it too far, that's good because now you know how far back to go. But if you always work like this right here, where it's real subtle, you're never going to know how far you can take things. You got to overdo them, then you back off. How do we learn something? Well, we do it over and over and over and over and over again because we love it. Oh my God, this is so great. Then we say, well, I could have left that out. I could leave this out. You start backing away from things naturally instead of adding more and more and more. You start taking away. That's just learned experience talking. It's not creative. It's not talent. It's a learned, trained, skill, experience set. So every time, if I took the average person right now, which I have done, and I put them to test, and I say, we're going to do this, this, and this, and this, and I put them there in a controlled environment, they can replicate that until they go home. And they can't replicate it so well. Why is that? Well, because they trust the situation that I'm going to take them forward, but they don't trust themselves enough to take it forward and be aggressive about it and then have to back away. They're afraid of making mistakes, afraid of the problems again, and it's not good. If it doesn't look like this, oh my God, we're in a lot of trouble. So the object of the game is when you're working, don't be afraid to be too aggressive, because why? What's the worst that can happen? Well, the worst that can happen is nothing, because you're too afraid to touch the canvas. The second thing the worst can happen is the fact you overworked it and now you have to back away from it. That's the reason why I don't use a palette. I always just go straight out of the tube. That's also the reason why I use paper towels, and I use my hand for paint so I can control the values of there and there. And I also use big brushes in the very beginning. And there's also a very good case for using large brushes in the very beginning instead of little brushes. If you use little brushes, you're tied up in detail forever. Now, I'm a contemporary painter. I'm more of an impressionist and a realist. I'm not a hyper-photorealism. I'm not into photorealism except from like 100 yards off. 100 yards off, if this jumps into clarity, I've done my job. If you walk up to it and you're going, oh my God, these are just, oh, it's all this work. I don't understand. Why did it work so well back there but not here? Why is it so abstracted? Why? That's the questions I want people to ask. Okay, so even from here, you can tell his head, the coyote's head's down. You see the eyes, you see the body, you see the shape. I'm loving it. But again, like I said in the very beginning, I was working so subtle. I was teaching a class because I showing also how light works when you shut lights off and how the contrasts are jumping out. But you could just see the shape. You could not really see the contrast. Why? Because I hadn't really added in contrast. Because the last one, as you see, and I'll bring that one back up because I know our memories are short. And these are kind of small paintings too, so just so you know. Okay? See the subtlety? It has its benefits, but it's also too subtle. Now remember, I haven't done anything out here yet. I usually don't. I want people's imaginations to play the part. I want their minds to finish the paintings. We are not there to replicate reality. We are there to interpret reality through our eyes and give the world a different view. That's the reason why most people, when they see a photograph, well, I like the painting better than the photograph. Well, good. That's the whole purpose. But if you replicate a photograph to the point where you don't know the difference between the photograph, I do not see the artist in there. I see technical ability. I see the ability to replicate verbatim, but I really don't see any creativeness in there. I don't see the person. I don't see the interpretation. I don't see these things. That's what makes an artist. That's what makes a painter. Not the idea that we can replicate nature, or replicate people, or replicate architecture, replicate these things. It's how we interpret them through our eyes that makes a difference. That's the reason why I love to see renderings versus paintings 90% of the times, because I get to see the guts of the work. And that's how I can tell if you understand values. That's how I can tell if you understand composition and structure and anatomy and all these things. The draftsmanship tells it all. Now, am I a great draftsman? No. Do I handle the pencil very well? I'm okay at it. I'm not great. But I've been doing it for so long, and I really forced myself when I was really young. To handle that pencil, handle the graphite, handle the Conte, handle these things. My expertise came in later because I realized I was more of a colorist than a draftsman. And that shows in here. Because look at these colors, you still see the animal, but I'm not really using, a lot of cool color in this, at least not yet. So, guys, during your day, I want you to think about this, especially as artists. What do you think it takes to be an artist? Is it replicating nature? Is it replicating the photograph? Or is it interpreting the photograph through your eyes using color and using structure, form, and also composition? That's how we look at this. Do you want the painting and do you want the subject in the center? Do you want it off to the let me see. Well, it'll be my left, your right. Do you want it off the left? Do you want to rotate normally and back into a painting, counterclockwise? An old artist told me one time, we enter pictures the same way we read. We enter from the left, we exit from the right. It's your job to pull you back in a counterclockwise motion to make it work. Okay? So when you're thinking about these things today, that's what I want you to think about. So when I haven't touched anything for a while, I'm going to be really subtle. And then I'm going to say, hold on a second, I got to be aggressive. When I get aggressive, then these things happen. Okay? I'm able to add a little more depth, things like that. I'll be adding more to this, let me tell you, on the dark side, so I can really start separating that out and bringing this forward to the highlights. And once I do that, then it's easy. And how I work is I go from cool to warm, light to dark, light values, dark values, and I never work here and down. I never work here and up. I work here, 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 here. It ties things up faster. It actually brings the painting in better, and it doesn't make you distracted by, just getting confused or desensitized. I guess that's the word. As toward where you're at. So in the process of working today, folks, I want you to think about that. And the way I know that it's your painting versus their painting, their painting, their painting, is when I ask you and I look at it and say it's a landscape, right? And I go, okay, got a question for you. What's your favorite color? And you tell me brown. Bullshit. Brown is a tertiary color made up of the primaries. Give me a primary color. Give me one color that you like. And you might say, and you're stopping to think, well, I like green. Okay, what color green? In green, I want a primary, I don't want a secondary. So then you have to stop thinking, well, I like blue. Okay, and I'm looking at the painting and all the blues are bled down because you mixed them with the other colors. You killed off the color. You hid your underpainting so everything looks just like the photograph. I will look at you every time and I'll say, you do not love your painting. You did not love what you were doing. And they go, well, I did. It looks so good. I said, no, you did not love it because I don't see that color. I do not see you in the painting. And it's very important because that separates us out from everybody else, not the other way around. What separates me from every artist out there that I've seen so far is the fact how I use color, how I apply the paint. And there's some artists who try, and they've tried, and I'm in gallery with a bunch of these, and yet again, the colors have mixed so subtly that their personality, their gender shows through. Everything shows through. They're not aggressive enough. Or they're too subtle, or they're too afraid, or whatever. Or they're interpreting the world. They love the color, but it's so subtle that, okay, fine. Show me a light side and show me a dark side. Don't make the light and dark so subtle. It's ridiculous. Da Vinci had something correct. He said if a light side light, dark side dark. Make it that way. N.C. Wyatt once said, if you're putting emotion into your paintings, show the man frowning, show him angry, show the angry face, so they know the emotion's there. And he was an illustrator. He worked for Scribner's. He did all the books, Treasure Island, N.C. Wyatt, Andrew Wyatt's father. He started all these kids off in their realm, and I think he had like 5 kids, and they all became, painters and engineers and stuff like that. So these people that we read about have good lessons for us. And part of those lessons are we need to apply them. And you need to think past the box. You need to think past, well, I've got to look at this. Also the reason why I don't want to have colored photographs. And I was also using that as an example because I wanted to show her one of the photographs that I have. Why this is more important than this. We see this. We see this. We see this. Now we see this. See the difference? So those things are really important. So guys, I know this has gone on for about 10 minutes too long. It should have been a short video. But I couldn't resist, and I also wanted to make sure that what you're doing, you're not afraid of doing. And also to get past the idea that anything else is second best. You replicate a photograph, it shows technical ability, it shows me you can mix color, it shows me you can do those things. Okay, that's something you learn to get away from because you've learned the rules. Now break every goddamn one of them as you're supposed to. You're the artist, you are the creator, you are the painter, you are the originator of that author of that work. So stop painting it exactly like that. Play with color, have some fun, make some pig color, interpret the world through your eyes. Everything else is second best. Even out.